Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world right now, and according to the Forbes list, he also has the most profitable one. Bringing in an astounding $30 million in 2019, the Joe Rogan Experience is by far the leader when it comes to top earning podcasts. And so today we're going to take a look at how Joe Rogan makes his money and how we can properly monetize a podcast. So let's jump into the video. Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake helping you create something awesome today. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Joe Rogan Experience, the biggest podcast in the world, bringing in a whopping $30 million in 2019. So we're going to break down all the different ways the Joe Rogan Experience made money with this podcast. And we're going to learn a lot about how YouTube podcasts work in general. By the way, if you are thinking of starting a podcast yourself, I'm going to link to several videos that I've made to help beginners launch and start their own podcast. I'm also going to drop some affiliate links for Amazon to give you a good setup for your podcast on a budget. Or if you want to be fancy, I'll link to the exact same gear that Joe Rogan is using for his podcast. Now, while the Forbes list did break down what the top earning podcasts in the world were and how much money they're making, they didn't really get into a lot of details about how these podcasts make their money. And while I don't have the back end numbers of any of these podcasts, what I can tell you about the Joe Rogan Experience is it does make a significant amount of money on YouTube AdSense. And I'm going to give you some industry insider information about how sponsorships and brand deals work, especially when it comes to podcasts that have a massive following, not only in YouTube, but in terms of the number of audio downloads. This is stuff that a lot of people don't know about. A lot of people don't share information about this, but we do have some resources we can use to start calculating these numbers. Now, again, in full disclosure, it's not like I've looked at, Joe Rogan's YouTube AdSense earnings on the back end, but we do have a lot of good information that can actually give us a rough idea. We're not going to just rely on Social Blade. If you guys have looked at Social Blade and then you've compared that, the videos where I've shown you in my actual YouTube dashboard exactly how much money I make, you can see those numbers are wildly off. And part of that, no shade, Social Blade, part of that is because Social Blade's calculator assumes a 25 cent to $4 CPM rate. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, CPM rates are basically how advertising dollars get spent in relation to how many impressions, how many views something gets. So in the case of YouTube, it's basically the amount of money that is paid for every 1,000 views. Now, the Joe Rogan Experience gets millions of views a day, not only on the main YouTube channel, but also on the Joe Rogan Clip Show. So when we look at the numbers for both of those, and then we run them through a calculator, adjusting for a much better, more realistic CPM rate for this particular program, this show, then we're gonna see some very interesting numbers that helps us get the amount of money that Joe Rogan makes a year on the podcast. Now remember, we've looked at before how much YouTube can pay for 1 million views. We actually revealed what I make on the channel for 1 million views in another video, so I will link to that in the description down below and also in the info card if you want to check that out. Also, I'm gonna link to my blog. Every month, I actually share my YouTube income reports where I break down how much money I make from YouTube AdSense earnings, super chats, merchandise like the Hustle hoodie and the Creator hoodie. Get those in the link down below. And also, I even share with you what I'm making on brand deals without naming the sponsors and how much they paid individually. And I show you my affiliate earnings from the affiliate links that I use in my description. This is not all of my income. And so I do have my coaching business, which is separate, my speaking engagements and other things. And I bring this up because Joe Rogan does more than the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. You have to remember that Joe Rogan is a stand-up comedian and he does have a Netflix special. You guys should definitely be checking out more of what he's doing because I think you'll be fascinated with all of the different income streams that Joe Rogan has. And that's actually a really important lesson because if you want to do a YouTube channel, whether it's a podcast, whether you want to do streaming on YouTube and Twitch, or whether you want to do an audio only podcast, you need to look at the multiple ways you can diversify your revenue and create all these different multiple income sources, just like entrepreneurs like me and also, entertainers like Joe Rogan. So here in the laptop, I'm looking at Joe Rogan's numbers. I've actually pulled his daily views on YouTube from Social Blade and I've imported them. Now, again, Social Blade does its conservative estimate when it comes to AdSense. Joe has a very popular channel, so I'm going to make a very reasonable assumption here. I'm going to assume that Joe gets a minimum of a $5 CPM rate and a maximum of a $10 CPM rate or better just because that's what the sliders will allow me to do here. Now, if you remember, I tend to have something closer to a $20 plus on average CPM rate, and entrepreneurship channels that deal in money, or even technical channels, software and tech and gadgets, they tend to have higher CPM rates. So with Joe, I'm going to put him in a category as a high tier entertainer and make the assumption that it's a $5 to $10 CPM rate. That seems reasonable. That seems even conservative. And so let's look at what the numbers come out to when we do that. So on the main YouTube channel, Powerful Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience, Joe has about an average of 3 million daily views. It's sometimes dramatically higher than that, just depending on what's going on. And so conservatively, we can see that yearly, that would result in about $5.5 million conservatively to $11,124,000 a year. So somewhere between $5 and $11 million is already a healthy start and would put you pretty high in the leaderboard when it comes to the top earning podcast in the world. It's definitely more than enough money to put you in the top 1%. But what a lot of people don't remember is that the Joe Rogan Clip Show also brings in massive views on a daily basis, as much as 4 million views a day on average. And so when we look at those numbers, applying the same $5 to $10 CPM rate, we get something really interesting. So when we look at that YouTube channel, and again, I've imported the data directly in here with Social Blade, we're looking at an average per year of $7.2 million to $14.4 million. It's not a small amount of cash, right? So you can already see that even if we play the conservative numbers, we've made up about a third of that, $30 million without anything else Joe is doing, without sponsorship deals or anything like that. And then on the high end, this gets us close to pretty much $25 million. So somewhere between $12 and $25 million from YouTube AdSense earnings alone. But we're not done yet with the YouTube side of things. Now, a friend of mine who works in the industry told me that Joe Rogan's team actually claims the AdSense revenue of people that are repurposing their content or re-uploading their content, that they're either splitting or gaining all of that revenue. And while I can't accurately confirm or deny that that's 100% true, I have no reason to disbelieve this person. And this is something that is actually a common practice from people who are podcasters, Twitch streamers, gamers. A lot of times their stuff is uploaded as compilations or just re-uploaded entirely. And instead of filing a DCM takedown notice, a lot of them just claim the AdSense revenue for this through, a private company that helps manage that for them. And so they get a portion of the revenue from that. With Joe Rogan being such a popular figure across so many diverse different categories, whether it's sports, comedy, entertainment, politics, there are so many people that are fans of his, and they're also freebooting his content and trying to circulate it. And so rather than not get the extra free publicity, they just take the revenue. So let's review real quick. We're at like 12 million to 25 million in AdSense revenue alone, conservatively, right then and there. And you have to remember that Joe Rogan's audio podcast is the biggest audio podcast in the world, getting a whopping 190 million downloads per month. That is insane. Is it really a surprise that Joe Rogan makes $30 million a year with such a lucrative, platform? Like, the opportunity for an advertiser, for a brand to get in front of an audience of everyday people, the type of people that Joe Rogan attracts from all diverse backgrounds. I mean, this is a great vehicle for brands. And so that's why more of us should think about this important question. Is our content a good vehicle for brands? If you want brand deals, if you want sponsorships, if you want to make money from brands, then you have to ask yourself, is your platform, whether it's an audio podcast, a YouTube channel, whatever it is that you're doing, are you a good vehicle for brands to be able to reach the average consumer or a target audience or demographic that they want to sell to? Is your content something that helps another brand sell their product or sell their service? Be honest with yourself, because that's why some of you are struggling to monetize your platforms, because honestly, your stuff might be appealing and entertaining to an audience, but it may not be a good vehicle for selling anything. Just a thought. In fact, if you want to know more about how you can get sponsorships and brand deals as an influencer, I've done 2 very detailed videos about that. I'm going to link to them down below, also up here in the info card, because I really think that that can help you a lot. I talk about the importance of building a media kit. I even show you kind of the pricing that I'm using and talk a little bit about what brands are looking for. Now, in a past interview, and this was in the past, it was speculated that Joe Rogan, or rather revealed, I think the way that went down, it was an interview where it was revealed that Joe Rogan was making $75,000 per episode back in the day. Still not small money. So I thought about this and I looked into some things in the industry, and I looked at industry standards. I looked at high level influencers and the fact that people like, Bethany Mota, she's in a completely different genre than Joe, but like she's been able to get as much as, $250,000 for a single brand integration. Now, while that's a dedicated video and what Joe does is more like ad reads and plugs, I also have some industry numbers on how that works. And so I was able to come up with a rough calculation, again, being very modest, very conservative after talking to a lot of people about this, about how much an individual mention or plug on an episode of Joe Rogan might be worth right now with the numbers that we're seeing. And if you want a little bit of background on also how I'm coming up with this, so a friend of mine from the internet who I've met a couple of times and is like one of the most prolific podcasters out there in terms of the entrepreneur space is John Lee Dumas. He's an amazing guy. I love his program. Like, it's a goal of mine one day to actually be on his show as an interview. And he gets over 1 million listens a month. Now, listens aren't the same as downloads, but let's assume that they were. John, because he publishes his income reports as an entrepreneur and was one of the inspirations for me to share my YouTube AdSense revenue and share my YouTube income reports every month, kind of like what he's been doing with his business. Like, he showed us that he makes about $50,000 to $90,000 a month from sponsorship. Now, again, if we assume 1 million downloads for John Lee Dumas, an entrepreneur on fire, and then we look at Joe Rogan with 190 million downloads a month, almost 200 times the audience, well, all of a sudden we can start to scale some numbers here. And so what I came up with was I'm making the assumption that for the 3 individual sponsor plugs a piece that on average are in a Joe Rogan podcast, that he's getting at least a minimum of $50,000 for each individual ad read. Now, again, I can't swear to that, but with the numbers that we have to compare from people who've been on the record and based on industry standards, scaling what I know I've been able to get for brand deals, I'm pretty comfortable and satisfied that these numbers are conservative. I would not be shocked to find out that the numbers are higher and that individual brands might pay even more to be in front of Joe Rogan's audience. So with that assumption in mind, that would mean that we're talking about $150,000 per episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. And since we know that Joe does a weekly podcast, let's just make the numbers really easy on ourselves and say that he does 50 episodes a year. Let's just say he goes on vacation for 2 weeks, right? So with that in mind, we're looking at a whopping $7.5 million in sponsorships per year. It's not bad at all, right? And again, I'm pretty comfortable with that number. It would not surprise me to find out that it was 10 million a year or even 15 million a year, given what I know about the industry. And as I said, there are other people who've put their numbers on record, so we can kind of apply the math and scale here. And Joe is the leader of the pack. So when we look at that and we look at the value and the size and diversity of Joe Rogan's audience, is it really that outlandish that Joe would be pulling down somewhere between 7.5 million and 10 million a year in sponsorships and brand deals? I think that that's probably conservative. And so between sponsorships and brand deals, if we assume the lowball number for YouTube AdSense revenue, that would make up about roughly $20 million of the revenue on a $30 million podcast already. And again, I think that it's actually higher on that number on the scale when we really think about it. And I think this is probably where a majority of the 30 million is the sponsorships and the YouTube AdSense earnings across the 2 channels, plus claiming the AdSense of any videos that are completely re-uploading 100% or 90% of the videos, minus any fees associated with that. And then, of course, there's the fact that Joe Rogan does other things. He is an entertainer. He does have his Netflix comedy special, and who knows what the deal was with that. It's hard to get those Netflix numbers and to know what people's deals were, and that's fine. And then there are a lot of other opportunities for someone like Joe Rogan as an entertainer, and I really think that when you really put it all together, you can see that building multiple income sources, making your platform a great vehicle for brands, and garnering such a large audience of trust and support is really beneficial for you in the long run. Joe has been doing this for 10 years now. Joe started this in his 40s for fun and something that he was interested in doing in a time when most people would have said that his career was behind him already and that there wasn't any real great thing forward to build on top of, and yet he did. And so Joe's in his 50s now and is crushing it. He's probably at the peak of his overall relevancy in his career and at the height of his powers. So when you really think about that, for all of you that are saying, oh, it's too late to do anything, Joe did this in his 40s and he's in his 50s now. You should be inspired by that, and you should look at what you have in terms of opportunities to monetize your platforms, monetize your hobbies, and do something that you really enjoy. And it doesn't have to make money up front right away. I really don't honestly believe that Joe was crushing it with these kind of numbers year one or even year two. I think that you have to respect the time it takes. And with Joe, you can see the discipline and commitment of an athlete applies to a healthy business. And so that's it for this video, guys. This was something a little bit different. I wanted to really play with this one because, again, I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan. I love long form podcast and I love long form audio. In fact, if you're a fan of podcasting, for one thing, I would love for you guys to check out my podcast. We're coming back with season 3 this year, and I have some great guest lineup. I also am doing some solo episodes where, I give you a deep dive into my own thoughts on different topics. So make sure you're checking out the Create Something Awesome Today podcast. It's in all the podcast platforms, and multiple links for you are in the description down below. Also, if you're a fan of all things audio, I'm gonna recommend 2 amazing books from Audible, who are not sponsoring this video, but Audible, hey, reach out. So if you want to grab a free trial of Audible, I'm going to link to that down below. That's my Amazon affiliate link, and you can get 2 free audiobooks, whatever you want, and you get to keep them even if you don't keep your free Audible membership and start paying for it. And so 2 books that I'm going to recommend that I just think will be very interesting to you guys are, I'm going to recommend The War on Normal People by Andrew Yang, fascinating dude and a great read. And I'm also going to recommend something massively inspirational that I think can help a lot of you who want to be productive. I'm going to recommend The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. This is a book that changed my life, and I think that it could help you change your habits. And it's also going to be something I include in my Millionaire Habits series that I'm working on. So make sure you're subscribed and checking all of that out. Like I said, links to everything are down below. Question of the day. Have you listened to my podcast? Do you even know that I have a podcast? And what topics would you love to hear me cover on my new season? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm going to be replying to a lot of you, and so make sure you're hitting that up. Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the other awesome content here on the channel. As always, you guys, thanks so very much for watching, and don't forget, go out there and create something awesome today, even if it doesn't make you 30 million bucks. Take care.